Okay, let's take a look at the day one stuff from the packet for 8th grade. So first question was on this battery life. It says, Sam wants to take his tablet and phone on a car trip an hour before they planned to leave. So we got to realize that there's two things going on here. He has a tablet and he has a phone. So we're looking at two different things. He realizes that he forgot to charge his batteries last night, so we have an hour. That's an important piece of information. At that point, he plugged in both devices so that they can charge as long as possible before they left. Sam knows that his tablet has 40% of its battery life and that the battery charges by an additional 12 percentage points every 15 minutes. So that is for the tablet. So that we got to remember that's the tablet information. His phone is new, so here's his phone information. So Sam doesn't know how fast it is charging, but he recorded the battery charge for the first 30 minutes here after he plugged it in. So when he first opened his phone, because it was new, it had a 20% charge on it, okay? And then it charged up to 30 minutes, so he has some information. So it says, if Sam's family leaves as planned, which is 1 hour later, okay? So we want to keep an eye on that. So he's going to leave in 1 hour, okay? An hour. Okay, what percent of the battery will be charged for each of the two devices? So let's take each device one at a time. So let's do the tablet first. So I know that the tablet, he's starting at 40%, right? So I know that it starts at 40%, and altogether I'm going to get a certain percentage amount that we're going to add to this, okay? So we got to find out what that is. I have to think about every 15 minutes, he's going to get 12 percentage points. So I can think about this in a way saying, well, how many sets of 15 are there in 1 hour? So think about that. How many sets of 15 are in 1 hour? So you can have 15, 30, 45, 1 hour. So it's 4 sets, right? So for every one, you get 12. So if I take 12 and I multiply it times 4, I'm going to get 48. So I know that it's going to add 48%. In 1 hour, he's going to get 48% more charge. So altogether, his tablet, when he's ready to leave an hour from now, will be charged at 98%. Now, if I take a look at his phone, okay, let's see what his phone is doing. Well, we know his phone's going to start at 20, right? His phone's going to start at 20. We want to get a certain percent. We need to find out how it's charging. So we got a nice table here so we can see that everything here changes by 10, right? And everything here changes by 12. So we can think about that. So for every 10, it goes 12. So let's think about how many sets of 10 there are in 1 hour. Again, going back to this idea of how many sets of 10 are in 1 hour. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I have 6 sets. So it's going to charge 12% every time. So I need 6 more, right? And that's going to give me 72. So I'm going to put that in here. So that's going to give me 72% more. So altogether, I'm going to have 92%. So when they leave in 1 hour, his tablet's going to have 98% and his phone's going to have 92%. So that's answering the first one. So now later it says, how much time would Sam need to charge the battery 100% on both devices? So we can see they're not both at 100%. They're both a little bit less. So let's take a look at the tablet first. And the tablet, what does it need? It needs 2% more, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what is the unit rate. So if we can find the unit rate here, that's going to help us to find out what we need to do, okay? So I'm getting my calculator ready here at the same time. So I'm going to find this 2%. So I know that it goes 12 points, 12% every 15 minutes, right? But all I want is 2%. So I can set up a proportion and I can solve and find out what that's going to be. So I have to remember about solving a proportion, and this will come in handy for another piece here today. You're going to cross multiply. So when you do that, you're going to get 12x, and 2 times 15 is 30. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 12, right? And x will equal, and I'm going to pull out my calculator. See, here's my calculator right here. I'm going to do 30 divided by 12, and I get 2.5. So it's going to take 2.5 more minutes. So I need 2.5 more minutes for the tablet. So now let's do the same thing for the phone. how much more do I need for the phone? If I'm at 92% and I want to get to 100%, I need 8% more, right? So we're going to set it up. Now we know the change is not the same, remember, because they're charging differently. Here we see that for every 10 minutes, it gets 12%. So let's do that. We know that at 12% every 10 minutes, that's what's going to happen for the phone. And this time, instead of 2% more for the tablet, I need 8% more for the phone. And so we need to figure that out. So we're going to cross multiply, and we do that. 12 times x is 12x. And then 10 times 8 will give us 80. And then once again, we're going to divide both sides by 12. So again, I'm going to get out my calculator, and I don't think you can see this. I hope so. So 80 divided by 12, and I'm going to get this weird 0.66. That's like 2/3. So 6 2/3 minutes is what I'm going to get. So how much time would Sam need to charge the battery to 100% on both devices? Well, we need this much time. This is more than this. So we could say that he would need at least 7 more minutes. He needs 7 minutes more in order to get both of his devices at 100%. So hopefully that makes a little more sense with that, okay? So let's put that one aside. And let's take a look at this one, which is the rule of 4. Okay, and what this is just taking a look at all the stuff that we've done before and putting it all together here. So you're going to see a lot of these rules of 4 in the packet. So you got to think about what you can work on first and then go from there. So let's start here. What did they give us? They gave us the words. They gave us that the meat costs $8 per pound at a store. So if the meat costs $8 per pound at a store, we got to find the slope and the y-intercept of this. These two pieces of information we can find when we graph it as well. So let's see what happens. Let me ask a question. If I know that this is going to be cost, right? And this is going to be pounds of meat. Pounds of meat, right? And that's going to be how much money it costs. I can make a table. So let's make a table, because it's always easy to make a table, right? And this is going to be how much it costs, and this is going to be the pounds. Okay, so now if it says I'm going to get $8 per pound, so if I don't buy any meat at all, does it cost me anything? No. So I'm going to put $0 there. If I buy 1 pound of meat, how much will it cost me? $8. If I do 2 pounds of meat, I got 2 times 8, which is 16. So now I have some data points, right? And from this, we can create our expression or equation, really is what we're looking at, because we're looking at for something with an equal sign. So let's think about what that would be. Okay, so we know we have an equal sign, right? And this is going to be, let's create our axes, right? So we'll use P, let's see, for pounds, we'll put P for pounds and M for money. How's that? M for money, P for pounds. So it's going to equal the amount of money, right? And what am I doing? I am taking $8 and I'm going to multiply it times how many pounds I have. So here's my equation. And I can even think about that. So, when we were talking about slope and y-intercept, we know that we can think of this also in terms of x and y, right? So it's like saying 8x equals y. You could do that too. You can use x and y. And that might help you to find that slope and y-intercept. Do you guys remember that y equals mx plus b, where the slope is the m and that y-intercept is the b? So let's use this idea. And let's take a look over here at this equation and decide what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. Well, we see the 8x by itself, so the 8 is with the x, so that's our slope. So we're going to record that 8 is our slope, and we know that slope is rise over run, so that's going to be 8 divided by 1, right? And it says, what is the y-intercept? Well, there's no number there, so it's plus 0. So we have a 0 as our y-intercept. Now we have all the information from the words. We have an equation. We have a table. We can plot some points. So let's plot some points. So I'm going to put some numbers on here to help us out just a little bit. I'm going to skip a little bit. So say this is 0, half a pound, 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds. We only went to 2. And then here, I'm going to count by 2s because these are going to climb pretty quickly, right? So I'm going to say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. So if I go to plot these points, I have 0, 0, so that goes right there. Here I have 1 pound is $8, so 1 pound, $8. 2 pounds is $16, so I'm right there. So this is all my pieces that I have right now, okay? And from here, I can now draw my line, right? Because can I buy a half a pound of meat? Sure I can. Can I buy 1.5 pounds of meat? Sure I can. So we're going to always have that line to show there's all these combinations that are in there. So that should help explain how this rule of 4 works. You're looking to be able to do all the different representations, whether it's in words, drawing an equation, writing a table, and graphing that as well. Okay? Then on your next page, I don't know if this is the page before or the page after, but you had to do this function to model a linear relationship. So what I want, all you want to do is keep in mind what we just talked about a minute ago. Y equals mx plus b. If you keep that in mind, remember, this is your slope, this is your y-intercept. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at each of these. You're going to say, hey, where's the y-intercept? What's the slope? You're going to have to find this is going to be your rise over run. So for each of these, you should be coming up with y equals, y equals, y equals. Finding that slope. Let's remind ourselves about how to find slope really quick. So remember, the slope formula. The slope formula is that you take the y values, you subtract them, and the x values, and you subtract them. And you're going to get a number. That number, that slope formula is going to go, whatever that works out to be, that's going to go here. So for these two problems, I would pick that. Or the other way to do it, if you remember this, is to take the difference. Remember we talked about how this changes and how this changes, the change in x and the change in y. So you can also talk about the change in y over the change in x. Either way, you're going to get the slope right away to put in this spot. That's going to be very fast. For these two problems, it'll be a little bit more difficult to find the y-intercept. You're going to have to take it down to where it's at. So when you see what the slope is, you're going to have to find out, hey, what's going to happen if x is 0? Because remember, on the graph, where x is 0, okay, because remember, all ordered pairs are x, y. When the x is 0, that's going to put us on this y-axis. So you're going to have to figure out, if what's happening here, so at 0, what will this value be? If this is 0, what will this value be? When you find that value, that's the value, and there's the b right there. That's the value that goes right there into the y-intercept. So you should be able to answer those fairly quickly. And then the last question that it's in day 1 is this one here. And again, this kind of looks like how we ended the battery question, because it's asking us to use any strategy to solve. I offered to you a moment ago about solving via proportions, right? And the way we do that via proportions, remember, is that we're going to cross multiply and then divide. So you might want to do that for here. You can use models or visuals to show what's happening here. And how do you know if your answer is correct? I hope you know that you can check your solution, right? So you're going to take your answer that you got here when you found out whatever k equals, right? And then what you're going to do down in this section here is take your k, whatever that answer is, you're going to plug it in there. And when you cross multiply, these should work out to be the same. So that's how you know your answer is correct. As far as writing a story, I have to think about that a little bit. But I think that there's something going on here. Just kind of like we did a minute ago when we said that we were doing percentage points of per hour or things like that. What you want to do is you can tell a story as long as your units are the same. Okay, so these units have to be the same. And then these units have to be the same. And if you have these units, you can tell a story. Okay. Let me think if I can think of one off the top of my head really quick. For every for every three questions I get, I can answer in 9 minutes. So if I get 21 questions, how many minutes will it take me to answer them? So that's an example. So see how these questions are the same, minutes are the same. And then drawing a visual of that, you can show that here's our equal sign right here. And what does that look like? What is 3/9 look like? And what does 21 over something look like? You can draw some pictures there. So that's basically what they're asking you to do with all of this. I'm hoping that you'll find this helpful.